Hi, welcome to our latest bonus chat. This is from our pod recording looking back over Leinster v Ulster. If you missed it, you'll find it on Apple, Spotify, and all the other usual places. Well, last week we honored Jordy Barrett's excellent display by looking at Leinster's greatest import. So I suppose with the business end of the season upon us, it might be a good time to turn the spotlight on the current crop of boys in blue. I've asked the panel to select a player each to harp on, starting with David, who wants to feature Saturday night's player of the match.
Yeah, so the player I opted to harp on is Tommy O'Brien. Tommy he's a wing slash center who really only plays on the wing. Um, Started his first season for Leinster 2019, I think it was, the 2019-2020 season. He started off. Which means he is deceptively older than you think he is based on how often he's featured for Leinster. He's 27 years old this season. He's sitting on, I think it's 42 caps for Leinster and at least one emerging Ireland tour. Um, Tommy is a player who I think at this stage in his career has less caps than he would have liked, but is finally showing the kind of form and consistency that I think everybody who's watched him over those last few seasons has been hoping for. I kind of termed him in the past as a glass cannon because he's always been brilliant. He's always had he's an eye for the trial and he's very quick. He's got the kind of pace that Leinster don't really have in a lot of their backline players. You know, we've favored players like James Lowe, who's maybe bigger and stronger, Gary Ringrose, who's much more tactically minded. Tommy O'Brien is fast. He's very fast. There was a point where I thought his fast twitch muscle fibers might be too fast for their own good, and he was just prone to defend to injury after injury. After that first season where he got his three caps, um, he never got more than I don't think he ever got more than 12 caps a season. It was six in his second season, 11 in the next, and then three in 22, 23. So that was he got quite a bad injury that season that cut it short. The next season he got 11, and this season he's on nine. So all things going well, this season could end up being the one where he gets his most caps, and I think it has shown what he's capable of when he's able to put that uninjured run together. Like I said, he's got the eye for the trial and he's fast, but I think he is one of the players who has really taken to the Jack Nienaber system like a duck to water. Um, One of the arguments about that style of defense, very favored by South African teams, is that you need players who are fast if you're going to do it because it relies on a scramble defense where you need to be able to be quick enough to get back if you need to scramble. Tommy O'Brien is quick enough, and he also seems to have a penchant for absolutely lethal levels of tackling. So he's taken like that to a duck to water. Like in this last game we just saw the strike rate, obviously the chip over the top for his own try, but the nous for the Dan Sheehan try. You know, that kind of rugby IQ as well as everything else. And I think this season his performance with Leinster when he's been able to string these games together has justified retroactively not only his inclusion on the Emerging Ireland Tour, not only his calling up to Ireland senior squads, but why at 27 years old, after spending so much time injured over all those seasons, why Leo Cullen has seen fit to continue re-signing this guy. He's just gone, I know he's getting injured, but if we can get him on an uninjured run for more than 6 games, it's going to be worth it. And I think it is. And for someone who definitely started the start of the season in the same mindset of every time he went down, we're like, oh God, please not again, because he just needs to stay fit. I think there's a very real chance that he will finish this season as Leinster starting number 14. And I think, you know, if I was Mac Hansen, I'd be watching my back. He's a different player to Hansen, but I could well see him fitting into an Andy Farrell team and starting to push for that. I also think it's a testament to the kind of player management that we have in Ireland that a 27-year-old winger could still make his break, and that the amount of faith that can still be shown in players who aren't they don't have to be 21 to be shiny and new, and I think it if he can continue this run, if he can stay injury free, and I hope to God I'm not jinxing him, but if he can keep doing that, then we are only going to see this guy go from strength to strength, and I really hope that he finishes the season strong with Leinster. A lot of the senior squad will go on that Lions tour, and I think if he goes on the Ireland tour, it could be exactly what he needs, the shot in the arm to really to turbocharge his career and really show what he has been threatening to show for the last 6 seasons. So Tommy O'Brien is my player.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just on Saturday night, It's like I think when he started with Leinster, he was in the center a lot. He played 13, and but he was always a versatile kind of player, and we knew he's been more prevalent on the wing, but I think he's shown that he's got that kind of rugby brain where he can play pretty much any position in the back line. And there were times when he was called on. A lot of wingers, a lot of times they're called on to play scrum half at rucks. He was able to do that. There was kind of an outhouse kind of now setting up that Dan Sheehan try. It was, you could pretty much play anywhere around the back line. And like you say, he's 27. He can, but he really does have that ceiling. And it was his bad luck with injuries over the years. But like you say, the coaches know what he can do. The coaches have seen him come through the system. The coaches have watched him train week in, week out when he's fit. They know what he can do and they know what he can bring to the team. And fingers crossed he stays fit to the end of the season. Okay, Kieran, you've chosen a forward for us.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about another player who's been hampered by injuries, very injury prone, and has been is probably a little bit older than you expect because he doesn't have a lot of caps. But Jack Conan is my player from my hometown of Bray, County Wicklow. I when he scored his try against Wales in the Six Nations for Ireland, it was his 12th try and 51 caps, and I was surprised because I thought surely he has more than 51 caps, and it was only his eighth Six Nations start. And I think that shows two things. That one, he's been so hampered by injuries, and like David said about Tommy O'Brien, there's an element of when he plays, anytime he's takes a tackle, it's like, please, not again, don't get injured again. But at the same time, he's also such a good impact sub that you nearly feel like, modern rugby is a 23 player game, and you nearly get the sense that maybe he's more suited to an impact role, not necessarily playing less time, but coming off the bench. Um, he made his Leinster and Ireland debut in 2014-15, having played for the under-20s and the Wolfhounds. He made his Ireland debut in a test against Scotland in a World Cup warm-up in 2015. Didn't go to the World Cup that year, probably fair enough, just came too soon for him. I think the other reason he probably has not at least another 15 caps is because of how competitive the back row has been. And he's been so injury prone that like there's always been other guys to step up. I mean, mainly plays as an eight. He's also does the job at six. I mean, you have Doris there. You had O'Mahony there this season. You've had him there for the past, I think, 12 seasons. It feels like nearly longer than that. But you've had these consistent performers. You had CJ Stander. You had for Ireland. You had Josh van der Fleer. So you had other players in that back row. That's not like when he was just fresh back from injury, he was walking back into the Ireland side. But yeah, his debut in 2015, 160 Leinster caps, 34 tries, so he has 170 points. He actually has more points for Leinster than caps, which is strange for a forward, I think. And it just goes to show when he has played, he's been very clinical. He's been very good. I think again when he took that knock against Glasgow in the European Cup quarter final, I was kind of thinking, oh, like, please don't be too bad. Please come back. He's the kind of player I think as well. If he had obviously forward is a more attritional place than backs, but again, if he had a season fit, I think he'd be one of Leinster and Ireland's best player. And I was looking back through the last couple of seasons. In that season, the great 2018 season, where it's a league and a European Cup double, he was a big player that year. He started eight European Cup games and he started 15 Pro 14 games, 23 appearances, 20 points. He's just that kind of impact player who he carries the ball so well. He creates space so well. He'll make an extra couple of yards. Now, since then, I mean, because it still feels like he's relatively young in his Leinster career because 2015-16 he made quite a few appearances, 22 appearances overall in the 14-15 season. Then 15-16, only eight appearances. The next couple of years, he made over 20. And then he hasn't got up to that level of numbers again. He's been more prevalent for Leinster than for Ireland. And I think that's stood to Leinster. I think he would have more Ireland caps if he had managed to make a run. But I think he's an interesting player because it's a bit of a conundrum in that do you start him at eight or six? It seems like Doris is nailed on at 8 for Ireland and Leinster. So do you start him at 6, or do you keep him on the bench for the impact role? That probably means starting Baird or Deegan at 6. He's so good at that impact role. As good as he is at starting, he's so good at that impact role that I think he's nearly more suited to just coming off the bench and bombarding the opposition for 30 minutes. Um, yeah, I feel like he's another player who injuries have just held back a little bit. Probably should have more caps for Ireland. Definitely should be 200 at this stage for Leinster, probably. But ever since he was successful with the under 20s, and ever since whenever he's been fit for Leinster and Ireland, he just never seems to have a bad game. Probably suffered a bit as well from being a back row, which Leinster and Ireland have typically had plenty of depth. But Jack Conan, from my hometown of Bray, County Wicklow, another super player who's been hampered by injuries. 32 years of age. I was actually surprised that. I thought he was only about 30. I thought he was about 2 years younger than that, because he's kind of lost a few years through injury. But I think if he can stay fit till the end of the season, I think he'll be a big player for us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a model pro, I think is a good description of him. I mean, I remember soon after he started for Leinster, there was a game at the RDS where I think he got a hat trick that night, but for one of the tries, he was behind the try line, and Leo the Lion happened to be there. Leo the Lion put his hand up for a high five. He just blew by him because he was focused. His mind was thinking, okay, we've got a restart coming. We've got to go set up for that. You know, he's focused on what he needs to do. Like you say, he's had injury setbacks. He's at Leinster where there's loads of talent for his position, but whenever he comes back, he just plays his way. He lets his rugby do the talking, and he plays his way. He got Lions caps from it. Everyone has seen how he approaches the game. He comes out, he does his job, and he's such a strong carrier. If you figure if he was in the Premiership, they probably would have played him. How many caps would he have now? I mean, he would probably even have more injuries. So he's probably in the right place for a player like him, and he's in good form at the moment, and he's demanding a starting spot for Leinster and even Ireland. And of course, he does have the Lions experience as well, so you never know. But yeah, it's definitely a good pick, and he's still got a lot to offer to Leinster. Well, that's brilliant. Many thanks again to Kieran and David for joining me. Hope to have you both back on again soon. Thanks, lads.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.